Okay, let's make our search engine work here. So we need events. We need, but first we need a search function. So let's do some thinking here. Basically, we want to write a function called search, and we want that function to go whenever we click the search button, right? So to start with, we're going to write a faux function that says you searched. In fact, I'm going to remove this let here so that we can rewrite the search function. Just bear with me on that one. So now there's a function called search. If I run it, it will say you searched. That doesn't help us very much. Why would you want to do that? Let's use our cool backtick thing from before, our template string, and say you searched for. And now we're going to interpolate something. We're going to use JavaScript to get a value. Namely, we're going to say search input.value, like that. So now if I search, it's going to say you searched for Buggies. Why? Because Buggies is here. If I change this to Loomba Loomba and now rerun this function, it will run that, and then it will find that now the value of search input is something else, and it will console log that. So if I run my search function now, there it is, right? Okay, so this function is going to do that. It's going to get that query out of the input, and then we're going to use that query to filter our array of animals. And then the final step is just to render only the ones that match. So, okay, it's not as complicated as it sounds. We're going to start by writing a new function here. It's going to be called search. And it's not going to take any arguments, so we're going to put an empty parenthesis. Now, this function is going to have more than one line, so in order to do that, we can't just start typing here. We have to put it inside of curly brackets. That's just how it works. So the first thing we want to do is to get the query, right? So the query is going to be search input.value. Now, from there, we need to run our filter. We want to say animals.filter only the ones that match the query, right? Obviously, that is not valid JavaScript. So we need to write another function. I'm going to write that function up here, and that's going to be called match. And let me remember how I did this before. Please hold, your call is very important to us. Yeah, okay, so match will look like this. It's a very simple. So it just takes query. Oops, no, it should take an animal. It says, does this animal match our input value? And it will return true if it does and false if it doesn't. So we can say, here, let's put match into our namespace here. So here's match. Match is a function. And I will say, so what we're doing essentially is, if I pass in a particular animal, like let's say the third animal in our animals array, remember this is an object, right? That's an object with a token and a gloss and an image source and a source, right? If I say match of that, what it's going to do is it's going to say, is this animal's token equal to what's inside of this input? The answer to that is false. But if we ask it about the first one, it's going to say true, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to filter our animals list, animals.filter, with that match function, right? So that is going to return just one because it's dolphin, because that token is equal to this. And then from there, we can do this cool trick, which is basically we want to, first of all, let's get our what is it? Animals section, which is a reference to the DOM node that all of these guys are contained in, right? It's that guy. Now, if I say animals section inner HTML, that's the content of its HTML, but suffice it to say, this just empties it out when I do that. There's nothing there now. Well, if I take my animals.filter, and then remember, this is going to be return an array where only the matching ones are returned. So you'll remember that this is just that guy, right? Okay, so this is called chaining, and what I'm going to do is, you'll remember we had a function called render animal before, and like if I run it, I can say render animals at 2, for instance, and it will render it, right? But let's clear it again. Now instead of just calling it on a specific one, I'm going to say animals.filter, and now I'm going to chain that render animal function, and it will work. Okay, so this is our search logic. It says we have our match function defined, and then we say, we can indent it so we can, I like this way to format things. So the match is the one that's responsible for asking whether the value of the input is equal to an animal's token. The animal is passed in. So we filter out the ones that match, and then we say for each of the ones that do match, we're going to render that. But remember, we also need to do this one extra step, which is to clear out the current set of, or the current HTML of that section. So if I save this, and I've saved this page, and we have our search function now. So let's put in another one. Let's put in Puggy. And if I call this in the console, because it's now defined in the page, if I call this, then we get that result. So there's one final step here, and this is kind of one of the weirder ones that takes some getting used to. Remember that we have a, like, that's pretty good, right? It works. So if I search, now if I change this to Loomba, and then run my search function again, then we get the right result. So the last weird thing here is that obviously, if the console wasn't there, this is like a super weird interface, because how do I actually run the search? What I want it to do is to run when I click the search button. So that requires an event. So I'm going to show you a really quick introduction to how you make an event listener. So if we go over here to this, where is the button? What's this thing? Okay, it is right here, right? Okay, now watch this carefully. When I come in here and I say search button.add event listener, click. Now I'm going to pass in this is going to be a little weird, event console.log you clicked me, and I gotta close 2 of them. Okay, so now look, this is new. I just made this happen. I just made this button listen for a particular event. So now this code that I just wrote in the console over there is now associated with that button. And basically what that means is, if the user clicks, then run this code. So it should work. If I go back to my console now, if I click this guy, boom, it does work. So I can run it as many times as I want, and it's telling me that I've now run it 7 times. What we want to do is, instead of just logging into the console, is we want to run our search function. So let's take this guy. Actually, I hope this works, or I'm going to look like a dork. Search. Well, we can do this. The reason that it has to be that way is kind of opaque, but let's try. We get 0 results. If I say Loomba now and click search, then I get that result. So there's our search engine. It's working. Obviously, this is just a really fly-by-night introduction. So now if I save this to the page, let's see here, put that in. That should work. Now we reload the page. Now if I, let's say, if I start it this way and I hit search, it's going to render nothing. Why did that happen? Why? Puggy. Now I'll click this and we get that result. If I type Loomba, and click search, I get the other result. If I type nothing and click search, okay, I guess I'm done. So there's a bug there, but that's the basics of tiny search engine. There you go.